we are here, guys. It's a Wednesday daytime, Hannah. We don't normally do this during the day.
It's light.
It is light. Well, it's not light for me because I'm in a cellar and there's no windows down here. But we're doing it because it's a special. It's an interview. It's one that we've wanted for years, and we've finally got it. There's just, I suppose, 2 words to really say to introduce it, isn't there, Hannah?
Pete Wild.
Pete Wild. Pete, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Yourselves?
All the better.
Not bad.
Yeah, you finally got me to cave in. We've been trying for so long, but I've finally caved in. So yeah, it must have been in a good mood Saturday when you saw me.
Chasing you around the pitch dressed as a chicken.
Yeah.
Just running around the field as a chicken. Pete, what are you doing? Yeah. You were in a good mood. I wasn't. Let's be brutally honest. I wasn't at the end of it. But one of us had to leave happy. So it's fine. I'm used to leaving unhappy at the minute. So yeah, we're going to do a little bit of I'm not going to say a deep dive because that makes it sound serious, but a bit of a walkthrough of your career and what you've done, where you've been, why you've been certain places, and where you are now, because it's a different story to, I think, anyone we've ever interviewed. You've not done the traditional football route, player or agent, and then moved on and become a manager. You've come from you've been the normal fan, haven't you? And you've lived that way, and then you thought, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to become the best manager in League Two. And here we are. So yeah, talk us through that then. Let's go back to the beginning. I think I'm right in saying Oldham fan. You were an Oldham fan from a very, very young age.
Yeah.
I have a question I told Hannah that I was going to ask you before you came in. So obviously now you're managing another club. The Oldham fan in you never goes away. That fan is always there. So last season, was there an added spice for you coming up against Mark Hughes as an Oldham fan for what happened? Because he was the reason you were relegated from the Premier League, wasn't it, back in the day?
Was there an added spice? 100%. I hold Mark responsible for ruining my childhood solely. As a 7-year-old child at Wembley, all my dreams are going to come true. No, do you know what? It's funny. It's when he came in our office after the Bradford home. So Adam Temple, my assistant, he's a massive United fan. So you've got one of us in the room who's overjoyed that Mark Hughes is coming in for a beer with us after the game, and you've got one of us who is overjoyed that we'd won, but thinking, you ruined my childhood. So we sat there, we're having a beer, as you do after the game. You talk through the game, and then Temp says to him, Pete's upset with you. And Matt was like, what? What's on? I said, Mark, I'm an Oldham fan. You absolutely destroyed my childhood. As a 7-year-old child at Wembley, like the biggest occasion of Oldham. They've been to the League Cup final, but I was too young to go to that. So to go to the cup fight, to the FA Cup semi-final, and we're winning and blah blah blah, and then Mark scores a goal like that, and he starts talking through the story, and Temps gets like all fan crazy because Mark's talking about the story, and I'm getting more and more disinterested by the second because I'm thinking, you're killing me here. I'm reliving this. It's even worse. So in a long-winded answer to you, mate, yes, it was nice. I feel like I got some redemption for all those years of hate.
It stays with you, those losses, when you're little. They really do.
They do when you're an Oldham fan. Because
I'm a Stockport County fan, so
there you go. You're all right.
We're all right.
In the last 30 years, Oldham are the most unsuccessful team in the last 30 years. I'm 39. So I've not seen anything remotely good.
Hopefully it's to come though. Let's be like they're in a much better place than they have been for a long time now. Especially off the field. It's getting it right now, isn't it? And pushing forward.
And that'll take time. Like you say, you're a Stockport County fan. You know these things take time. And the first thing is getting the structures behind the scene right. And Frank and his family have done a phenomenal job to get the structures right. And now the football will take time. And I obviously have lots of friends who are Oldham fans, and they're beside themselves how we're not running away with the league. And it's like, it's going to take time, lads. It's going to take time.
Yeah, it will. And hopefully and you need the fan base needs to have some patience and kind of understand the journey. And I think the onus there is on Frank and the backroom staff to communicate that and like bring people along with them, understand that it's not a quick turnaround. But I know that there's a level of impatience there, as there is with all football teams.
Certainly, everybody wants everything now. We live in a society, I call it the broken dishwasher society, because if your dishwasher breaks these days, you don't ring the handyman to fix it. You buy a new one. And we unfortunately live in a society that's not football's problem, it's everybody's problem, that we want everything now. And if we don't get it now, then we become impatient.
So I'm going to guess that both you and Hannah have dishwashers.
Yes.
I live in a very old house in Bradford, and we don't have dishwashers. I don't know anyone that has a dishwasher. It's just not a thing for us. So I can't really understand that one, but I'll give it you. It's fine. But I do agree.
I aspire to having two. Well, no, because it makes sense, right? You have one that's got dirty dishes in it and one that's on, and then you don't end up with stuff on the side. And also if one breaks, then you're covered.
Now you never thought the first 10 minutes of this would go into dishwashers, did you? There you go.
Honestly, yes, I did think that it'd go somewhere where we never expect, because that's what happens every single time. Look, I do agree though. It's kind of like for a lot of clubs, it's like a hire and fire thing, isn't it? It's like, right, this person comes in, can they get it right in the next 5-6 minutes?
Oh. That's what happens when the club put your phone to your computer.
That shows that Barrow are doing well, though, doesn't it? You were saying this. When you're doing well, the phone never stops. But it is. It's like it is a hire and fire world. Is football? It's like, bring someone in. Can they get it right in the first 6 months? If not, the fans are going to turn. And obviously that depends on club, but the expectations at some of these clubs are, well, they're unrealistic from fans. They really are, because there's a lot of work to be done to get yourself moving forward. So let's go into your career. Let's look at where you started. You weren't in football. Well, you were from 18, weren't you? You started as a coach for Oldham Council?
Yes. So doing at 18, obviously realised I wasn't good enough to play football. And if you ever watched me play football, I was terrible. But all I was interested in was football. I was desperate to be in football. But I knew that was slow building blocks and a slow process. And probably as an 18-year-old, I never thought I'd get into professional football, but hoped I could have a career coaching football and earning a living from football. So I embarked on my badges and started to do my badges. When I left school, before I went to college, I started as an apprentice mechanic. So because I came from a background of obviously always seeing your parents earning money in the pubs. You always had to work. Every half term, I was out working for one of the locals and helping out and getting a little bit of cash in my pocket. So I just enjoyed working and coming from a family that I knew I had to work. So when I left school, I went and did the summer as an apprentice mechanic, and whether I decided which way I was going to go. Went to college till 18, started doing my level 2, my badges, and came out and thought, right, I want to do some coaching. Now, most coaching opportunities were in the evening. They weren't during the day. So I had to try and find some way to earn money during the day. So I went back to being a mechanic during the day, and I'd go home, get changed, and go out coaching in the community or in the schools, and sort of trying to build up my CV that way. And probably for about 2 or 3 years there, I was working for Oldham Council. I finished being a mechanic. I went to be a tree surgeon, cutting down trees, laying footpaths, and doing a bit of that. Then going home in the evening, getting changed, going coaching, and then that sort of started to flip. Where there was more coaching opportunities during the day. So I started to do the coaching opportunities during the day. But then my dad was winding down as a pub landlord. So I then started getting involved in the family business, where I'd coach during the day, go home, get changed, and run the pubs in the evening for him while he went home. So then things started to flip and change. And then he started sort of a business of looking after pubs that maybe weren't doing well. So then if he committed to more than one pub, I ended up a couple of times doing the pubs for him and looking after pubs. I'm probably a 19, 20-year-old at this time, and I'm looking after pubs. So I have had a rounded upbringing. I feel like the actual pub game has made me grow up, made me better as a person, good communicator, being able to deal with people, deal with conflicts. I think because of that upbringing, it's been second nature. So I feel like, yes, it was an interesting upbringing, but I think all them sort of touch points have allowed me to get to where I am today and hopefully be good at dealing with people.
And that graft and that work ethic is a completely different trajectory and will give you a completely different set of life skills than someone who has maybe gone from professional football into coaching. Do you feel like you have a very different outset to the managers with that kind of traditional background?
Yeah, I think they're completely two different balances. If you look at the people who've been in professional football, I mean, they've had to earn contracts every year and basically the CEO of their own business for however long they were a professional footballer. So
yeah, true.
they've gone through lots of adversity across their career and lots of uncertainty. So they're used to being sort of, like use the phrase, CEO of their own company. So they're used to looking after number one, and all they've had to do generally across their career is look after number one. Where we came from, it was very much around, well, you had to have a certain set or develop a certain set of skills where it allowed you to deal in different environments with different people, dealing with adults, dealing with conflicts. Coming from that environment, I think sort of taught you around, well, every penny counts and every penny and where every penny counts. And we were fortunate that our businesses went well, but you had people that came into the pubs who obviously were on the breadline and were looking to make sure every penny counts. So you had an appreciation of other people who came into the building. So I used the phrase that I came from the other life, and when football is all over, because it will be one day, that there's no anxiety, there's no panic, there's no nervousness about going back to what I used to do. And I'm enjoying the ride, and long may it continue. And I'm not hoping it finishes anytime soon. But
I don't think it will.
Yeah, when it eventually does, that, all right, I have no qualms and going. I have this thing that one day I want to go and work at a golf club and cut the grass, and when I've cut the grass, I can go for a pint. And that's sort of how I see utopia. Yeah, you don't have to deal with people, you don't have to deal with anybody. Go and cut that grass when you can go home. And I have this thing that when it's all over.
Can you imagine, right? That conversation. Let's just say one day you find yourself out of work in football, and you go and speak to somebody about trying to get something, and you say, look, I'm looking for a job. They say, fantastic, what can you do? They say, well, I can manage your football team if you like. They say, well, we don't have a football team for you to manage. And you go, well, how's your car doing? Well, actually, my car's running fine. Fantastic. Do you need any trees cutting down? It's such a wide variation of jobs. Like, it's, oh, do you need me to run a pub? Like, there's not, you can't connect those four things in like, there's no career path that takes you from tree surgeon to mechanic to running pubs to being a football man. Like, they are four completely separate things. And like, yeah, I think that's great. I mean, my car's not working at the minute, so I'm tempted to
Neither's mine.
Yeah, it was 20 odd years ago. I wouldn't have a clue now what to do. I think the biggest thing to say there, though, is that, like you say, well, all you're basically saying is, I'll turn up on time. I'm a good lad. I'll work as hard as I can. I'll communicate with people, and if you've got anything that fits that bill, then give us a shout. Like, I think that's how I see it, is that there's so many transferable skills from so many facets of life, that if you can lead people and you can get people to do things that you want a higher group to do, or you can get people to believe a higher purpose, then I think there's so many transferable skills out there. I ended up going back at 34 to do a master's degree, and not been in a school classroom for 20 odd years. But I did a lot of it around change management and leadership. And I always feel that if you can crack leadership and change management, I don't think the actual subject knowledge matters. It's about getting people to move in a direction.
I never felt more inadequate as a person. I'm sat here like, oh, mind you, I'm only 35, so I've still got some time to catch up. I might manage Barrow in 4 years' time. We can see how it
But no, I mean, I've got an MBA, and doing that, it's completely transferable. It doesn't matter. It's people management and building a team and bringing them along. With that in mind, and with your kind of all these transferable skills, do you find it easy to kind of stay in your football lane at Barrow, or do you, or in any role, or do you kind of want to go digging and interfere. I say that, but in a nice way, in other things.
It's interesting. I think the 3 years I had at Halifax, where I had an owner who's phenomenal. He helped me learn when I made mistakes. He helped me think about my mistakes. He helped me develop as a person, etc., etc. But obviously at Halifax, it was a very small number of staff, and still is today. So you had an opportunity to be involved in quite a number of situations, from dealing with the budget, dealing with contracts, dealing with recruitment, dealing with the youth team, dealing with bringing money in for sponsorship. There was lots of different facets that came out of the Halifax role that allowed me to learn. So coming into Barrow, where we have a significant, larger staff pool, I know more now, so I can have I try and stay in the football lane. I call it skirmishes and wars. Don't get involved in skirmishes, just fight the wars. I think you have an understanding of what people bring to the table, so you can, I sort of can understand where they're coming from and understand where they maybe want to go a little bit more. And when there is difficulties, I have a greater understanding. So I think, like you're saying, I 100% don't get in. Well, I think one of my biggest traits is I let people do the jobs. I'm there to help you, but you've trained professionally to be in this environment. So I'm here to assist. I want it doing a certain way, but how you get to that result is up to you. You've trained in a particular field that gets you to that, but I want it to look like this at the end. However you get to that, it's up to you. That you're the professional. So I am there, but I'd like to think that I understand more, and I can take a step back more and sort of process things more. Now having a bigger pool of staff to work with.
And I suppose for you as well, this was always the dream, wasn't it? Like, to be involved in football, like even when you were doing those other things, it was always, this was your first passion. This was what you wanted to do. Were you 18 when you started doing your badges? Was that when it was 18 years old?
Yeah, so I stayed in level 2 at 18. Wow. So I was doing the coaching and stuff. And I think around about 22, 23, I went working for the Lancashire Football Association. So I was working for the FA, and then I was around sort of ex-professionals, people who tutored the courses, who tutored all the badges. So I then started to get my UEFA B license. But again, I was around people who could help me, and I could listen, I could learn, I could sharpen my skills. I ended up then starting delivering the level 1 and level 2 courses, and all them things were just allowing me to get better in my field. And if you look at the types of people that are getting jobs. So Scoobs has just got the Lincoln job. I know Scoobs really well, but we're now starting to get the sort of, it's not the fad, is it? But what people want at the moment is time served on the grass. People are looking for time served on the grass, and I'm coming up to 21 years of coaching on the grass. So there's been a lot of mistakes around where there's been a lot of getting your hands dirty. There's been a lot of this, that, and the other. But that I think all them things have helped me, because I thought about my coaching journey, and I was a million miles away at 18 from where I am today. And it's just been them little steps, them little blocks along the way, and having a belief that, did I believe I would walk out as the Oldham manager at 34? No, I thought I'd be a million miles away from it. But you when you get them opportunities, you have to use your past experiences to try and keep you in the job. And I was very lucky that worked for me, really.
So you mentioned there that the Manchester FA, you were, or was it
Lancashire FA?
Yeah. So it wasn't ever the Manchester FA, because it says, right, see, Wikipedia, wrong. Wrong. Well, Hannah will go and we'll edit it, and we'll use this as evidence when they ask. When they edit it back, we'll use this as evidence. Your first kind of job within, it's not a club, but managing a team, is it England Amputees? Is that?
So yeah, I did a lot of grassroots stuff. I then did Oldham schools, so the old schoolboys, the town teams. I did the town teams, and off the back of the town teams, Tony Philskirk, who was a massive part of my development as the academy manager at Oldham. So his lad Danny, who's still playing at Fylde now, Dan was in that team that won the County Cup, and off the back of that, Tony offered me a job in the academy at Oldham as the under-12s assistant. So I started as the under-12s assistant coach at Oldham. So I spent I spent 12 years in the academy at Oldham, working my way through 12s, 13s, 14s, back to 12s, 13s, 14s, and again working around them age groups until I got a job. Until when I was working at the FA, a job came up at Oldham as the 12 to 16s, head of the 12 to 16s, which was a massive drop in pay, was a massive step back, but it was the first chance to get through the door of professional football full time. So whilst that was going on, I did 3 years as the Great Britain amputee manager. Fantastic. 2 World Cups, 10 countries. We travelled around dealing with adults, dealing with teams away from home, preparing for tournaments, coaching against teams who were obviously had a lot more funding than us, had a lot more backing than we did. We had to raise money to go to any tournament. We were a registered charity. They still are today, a registered charity. And again, it was another touch point of me dealing with teams, coaches, adults, preparing for tournaments, preparing for finding ways to win. And again, another unbelievable experience for me to try and sort of shape who I wanted to be on and off the pitch. So while that was going on, the amputees, I was then starting my role full time at Oldham.
Wow. The amputees thing is what, like, we knew obviously you had a different journey into football, but I'll be brutally honest, I'd never heard of that prior to sort of seeing yourself and looking into who you were. And this was kind of when you were at Halifax, and it was like, wow, there's actually and it came into a discussion not that long back. There was someone who me and Hannah know, there was a young boy who was actually having his leg amputated, and his dream was to play football. That was it. His dream was to play football, and he immediately thought that was it. You know, he's losing his leg. That's the end of it. And it was actually, the conversation was then, no, it's not. That's not the end of this for you. There is an option. And I feel like for him, it gave him like a little bit of a boost to know that that's still there for him as well. And like, I think it's an amazing thing to actually see being available for people in those positions, because, you know, we do that thing and we always say football's for everyone. And that shows that it really is for everyone. And there's an option, and it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're not able to play, you know, in the Premier League and whatnot. There's still an option. You're still able to be in and around football, and you can still play. And I've done like quite a lot of watching of videos and things, and there's actually quite an unexpected level.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah. And like, I just remember you see players doing things that you wouldn't think they'd be able to do, being brutally honest. Like, you're looking, like, I find it amazing. I'm genuinely, not, I don't want to say obsessed, because that sounds strange, but like, I find myself watching it, and then I end up like 3-4 hours in YouTube videos just going, how on earth has that just happened? How has that goal been scored? Because I couldn't do that in a million years. And the determination by these people, it just shows how they just want to continue. They just want to play football. And like, that's the love of the game in it. And I think that's why we love the lower leagues, because people play because they love the game of football.
Yes, certainly. I agree with you. And I think the funny thing with that is that Adam, my assistant, me and Adam met 20 odd years ago when he used to take the Man United disability team, and I used to take the Oldham Athletic disability team. And that's how actually me and Adam met. And in terms of the amputees, Adam was the head coach of the amputees and done an unbelievable job. And he said, "Do you want to come to Dubai for 6 days coaching?" I'm like, "Yeah, dead right, I do." And so I came back, and 2 weeks later went, "Right, I've resigned, but I've told them that you'd be great for the job." And I was like, "Thanks, mate. I think you're still."
If he ever asks again,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If you ever have someone that you need to take with you to Dubai, you know, or even even Skegness, just anything. I think
there's the charity as well, mate. Look at how much the charities is progressing now. They've got juniors playing. They're playing across all age groups. There's a national league now, and that's again from hard work and determination of a lot of people. And me and Adam were a small part of that journey.
And it's, I suppose that's something that you'd look back on with like a lot of pride, to know that you were part of that. You were able to sort of help people like obtain a dream as such, like play football. Because that for a lot of people is just what most people in this country growing up want to do. They want to play football. It's the sport, isn't it? I still do. I'm 35. You said you realised when you were 18 that you weren't good enough to. I'm 35 and I'm still not ready to admit it. I'm getting to that point now.
My lad says, do you want to come have a kick about? And I'm like, don't enjoy playing football. I've got no interest in playing it. But I decided this year I'd take his under-8s team. I don't know why I've done it, but I'm taking his under-8s team this year on a Sunday. So you can imagine what that's like, can't you? When you turn up and they double check on the side of the pitch and you go, what are you doing?
So there's an under-8s team in the
Yeah.
in sort of the Manchester area being managed by Pete Wild
on a Sunday morning. Imagine that, eh? Imagine turning up to that.
Wow. And
There's
my daughter
fans
plays under
seething
11s.
right now.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
It started off as
brutal.
the club saying, I said, right, in the summer, your coaches put so much effort in. If they want a week off in the summer, I'll take a session, give you a week off. You do a great job. Then I got a phone call just before the season. Right, we put the Sunday teams together, and there's not really any dads that are suitable to or want to take the team. Will you do it? And I was like, oh, yeah, go on then.
Is it rewarding though?
It's
It's that rewarding side of things where
Unbelievable.
they're not doing it for a job, are they? They're doing it a game for the
and they
just love to play it.
They put so much effort in and they work so hard. And I think that's when I come away every week and just think, well, it's worthwhile because they're great and they're so new and bubbly because they're under-8s. They're so bubbly about going and playing that why wouldn't you? Why would you not? You just stood on the other side of the fence as a dad, so you might as well try and help them out.
Yeah. I agree.
You'd find it hard to keep your mouth shut otherwise.
Well, I ended up because some of the comments that come on, you can imagine. So I ended up going off with the brew. So I end up only seeing it from a distance anyway because some of the comments wind me up. So I have to walk off. So being on the other side of the fence, at least I can't hear them. All I can hear is the kids having a crack.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's amazing. And that again, that just shows that you've just got that love of the game. It's just. It's infectious, isn't it? Really, like you see at the higher levels that there are people that are in the game for the money. It is all about the money, and then you sort of get to this level and like this is why I'm a big defender of players on social media when people are abusing. Like I fully accept criticisms. Criticisms are allowed. You can be critical, but there's a very fine line, and like being very, very. I've defended players and had horrific arguments with people, but it's just like these people are doing it. It's a living for them. They're not making millions. You know, people saying that players are sat on contracts, things. It's like they're not. These players are going to retire at 35, 36 years old, and they've not earned millions and millions of pounds. That's not what this is. This is essentially a third of their wage every single time they get paid. They've got to put aside because once they're done, they've got to keep going. So yeah, it's great.
I think there's a couple of things on that, mate. And no player goes out to do bad. I'm 1,000,000%. And no player goes out to do bad. The problem they've got is that when they go out every week, there's another 11 trying to stop them doing what they're good at. So
it's their job too.
Exactly. You use if you go to work 800 times, you can guarantee 400 of them are going to be rubbish. You're going to have 200 of them that are bang average, and if you're lucky, you're going to have 200 days you turn up for work and you're above average in your job you do. And I think we all forget that. And the PFA are phenomenal. The PFA came in the other week and we're talking to our lads about what you're going to do after football. And some of our lads are already doing degrees, know what they're going to do. Some of them have got other interests in other businesses that they're going to do, and some of them haven't got a clue, and that's fine. But one thing I do like about the PFA is that they're actively coming out and going, right, that's what you're going to do. Yeah. Don't get to the end and go, I'm the same. I'm already looking at 2 or 3 things. So when football's over, I want a succession plan. I want to know what I'm going to do next. I don't want to get to the end and go, oh my God, what we're going to do now? Because we're going to have to pay the mortgage. We're going to have to keep going. So what we're going to do. So I think it's a massive part of the lower leagues, and one of the reasons probably why you promote the lower leagues is that it is real life, isn't it? It's people not detached from reality and society that maybe they are at the top.
It's real and passion.
Going back, and that's where it all comes from, all the frustration, and it's I guess essentially from that place. In terms of, you're not on Twitter, well, not that Liam's been able to find you to stalk anyway. How do you deal with the kind of the criticisms that come at you from people that are not doing your job? They're not football managers, they don't have your level of expertise and experience.
Well, that's the reason I came off Twitter.
Fair. I think it's the best thing to do.
All you'd see now on Twitter is just the words Pete Wild.
Pete
That
Wild.
is all you would see everywhere.
My wife says this all the time, and I said, I'm doing a podcast, I think, for the people who keep saying my name. She went, ask them why they always say Pete Wild. And I know now, I've told her why. But
I told you on Saturday. It's funny. We had Gareth Southgate come and talk on the Pro license the other month, and I'm a massive Gareth fan, and I know he gets battered, and I can't understand why, because nobody's done as well as he's done in the history of England managers. He talked about the biggest challenge being at one with people not agreeing with you, and I think that's nearly at 250 games now, which I can't believe. But I would say that's the biggest thing I've had to learn, is to just be at one with people not agreeing with you. I've got a sharp tongue and I've got a sharp temper, and I can turn around at times and tell people what I think. And I've got that in my locker. I've got a snap in me, but I try where possible to keep that under wraps. But I think the birth of a 24-hour news channel and the birth of Monday Night Football and all that, which is fantastic for the game, because it's a massive insight for fans who might not get that. People have got now a more sharpened opinion than they've ever had of football. So I think, again, I used to have on my old laptop, it was a quote, Roosevelt, basically saying, until somebody's been in the battle with you, they can't comment on you and how you fight the battle, and all them things over the years. And again, I openly admit I work quite closely with a psychologist, as I know quite a lot of managers and know quite a lot of players do these days, and I couldn't be a bigger advocate of a psychologist if I tried. And they're fantastic at really sort of breaking down your thoughts and really breaking down your behaviours of what you need to be and how you need to go about your business. And I think the modern person, because of what society throws at these days, could all use a psychologist from time to time. So hopefully that's a long-winded answer in what you asked.
No, but very very insightful. I would snap.
I couldn't afford a psychologist to take on what I have. Like the amount of work that they would need. So it's just I just don't open that book. But again, it's so, and this goes back to players, and there's players on social media that they're all on it, because let's be brutally honest, especially at the lower leagues, there is an ego, isn't there? There's a if you score a goal, you want to see what the fans are talking about. You want to see the fans praising you. But then at the same time, you see that bad side of it, and you see the other side. And I feel like people do sometimes forget that these are just normal people, and it affects them. It really does affect them. And we've got there's a former Lincoln player. I think it's Nathan Arnold, isn't it, Hannah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who we've been speaking to, because we're going to do a mental health episode. He suffered really badly with anxiety whilst playing, and like it got him to a point where he couldn't enjoy games. They won the league, or they won promotion, and on the day they won promotion with Lincoln, he suffered with anxiety attacks in the morning. He didn't enjoy the game. He didn't enjoy the moment, and that really, like, you never know what someone's going through off social media and away from the football. And you know, someone might not have a great game, but like you say, no one's gone out there intentionally to not have a good game. And sometimes it's just down to the other team being better prepared and knowing how to manage you.
And a bit of luck as well, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think social media, I mean, it's got lots of fantastic points. It's got lots of tough points, because 95% of the people that send things that they send would not say it to your face. And I think it's brutal. I think some of the things that are said, I always say to the players, I said, I wouldn't be on social media if I were you, because for every shot of dopamine that you get for a bit of praise, there is lots and lots where you're obviously getting not what you want and not what you desire. But we live in a society of self-gratification, and we all want gratification, and we all want well done. I've got many analogies for you, but I use another analogy of the my son goes to school, and if he turns up every day, he gets a certificate at the end of the term. Why? It's his job. Why does he get a certificate for his job? It really, really grates on me. He's got to turn up every day. That's his job, to turn up every day. So why should he get praised for it at the end of the term? So we unfortunately, again, we live in a society where effort is praised. Why should effort be praised? We should be praised for doing well, not effort. So yeah, but again, I think that's the birth of social media, that everybody now thinks they can take to that and do that. So yeah, it's a tough place to be, social media. I won't wish it on there. It like go to Valley Parade Saturday, mate. It's great having 17,500 because you can't hear what you shout at you, but you're at Barrow or you're at Smaller Ground, you can hear every word that everybody shouts at you. And sometimes
I hear some horrific stuff from away fans.
Yeah.
I hear some horrific. When I'm down there and I'm stood in front of them, I hear every word, and I don't take it to heart, but it's just some of the things that are shouted. Like, just go when I come off the pitch, I'm thinking, if they're saying that to me, imagine the things that the players are hearing, and it must be horrific. Because if you can get that riled up by a chicken, imagine what happens when a player scores a goal against you. And that, like, it's look, 17,500 fans is great when you're winning.
Oh yeah, of course it is. Yeah. But I won't say the club, but I remember coming out at half time after a game last year, and a bloke made a comment to me, stood next to his son, and I turned around and went, "You're a grown man. What are you doing? What are you doing?" And anyway, we came back to win the game, and I turned around at 5 o'clock, and he'd gone. I was gutted.
Right, so it definitely worked Bradford because we were never winning. But so to go back to your career, then to sort of come back onto it, then and how you got into, because we haven't even got to your actual management yet, like your full-time management here. So you said you were at Oldham for 12 years, and then 2018 Frankie Bunn left, and you were kind of thrown in the deep end for 8 games, I believe it was, and you had a very good record. I think, did that include a Fulham FA Cup victory?
Yeah, it did. I mean, the stories are endless for this part. I mean, I'd obviously gone in full time. Tony Fulcher left, and I was interim academy manager at the time. And on Boxing Day, I thought Frankie was doing a great job. I say this all the time. I thought Frankie Bunn was doing a great job. And we got a kick in at Carlisle 6-0 on Boxing Day. And me and my missus were sat in the pub, and I said, honestly, I think we need to go home now because I can't work out who's going to take the job in the morning. It might be me here because there was nobody else. Either me or the cleaner, unless he's got somebody in mind. It was either me or the cleaner. So I was like, right, we're going to have to go home here. So then 27th, I went into work and took the youth team. Come back from training in the youth team in the morning, and the owner finds me and said, I've been looking for you. I said, I was taking the youth team. Right, Frankie's been sacked. Will you take the team for the next 2 games? Port Vale away on the Saturday. We had an horrific record at Port Vale. And then Notts County at home on New Year's Day. Not a problem. So being the cheeky gob ... I am, I said, well, if I win them too, can I have Fulham away? And he went, yeah. And I think he was like, yeah, all right. I'm just yeah. So I took initially for the 2 games over Christmas, and the day before, I remember addressing the players, and the day before we went to Port Vale, we had no analysis on Port Vale. All Frankie Stafford left with him, and we managed to pull some stuff together on Port Vale, and we went there and won 4-1. Like I say, Oldham never win at Port Vale, and we won 4-1. And I'm like, oh my god, that's unbelievable. So we roll in, and then on New Year's Day, I'm actually walking out of Boundary Park, and what is synonymous with that day is 28 years to the day, because my dad took me on New Year's Day 1991, Newcastle at home. 28 years to the day I walked out as the Oldham manager. Unfortunately, at the time, my dad was ill and didn't understand what was going on. But for me to do that on that day was just like, wow. And we won 2-0, and what a 4 days. Yeah, and you think, well, if it's all over now and I never manage Oldham again, or I never do football management again, what a bad 4 days, and happy go. So even like the second, we were off on the second, went in on the third, and the owner pulled me and went, I'm a man of my word. You've not got Fulham away on Sunday in the FA Cup. And I'm like, oh my God.
The fear kicked in.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this, but I've got a ticket for the game. I'm going on the train with the lads to the game. I'm on the R7 from Piccadilly, and we're on the pop all day, and we're going for it big time. Now I'm the manager.
What a week! Imagine
I
that
love
group
it.
chat, lads. I can't make it. I'm running the thing.
Yeah. So I said I
Who
was
shall I
going.
start?
Yeah, I'm still going, but I'll be over the other side.
Yeah, I'll meet you there.
Yeah. So yeah. So we Fulham away, and I mean, Oldham have had some tough times recently, and to be walking out there, 4,000 old front. I honestly probably could name you by person 2,500 of them 4,000 that were there, and that you walked out and you was like, wow, this is, as an Oldham fan, these are the days we all live for. We don't get many days like this. And all I kept saying to the players is, let's just give them something to hold on to. It doesn't matter if we win or lose, just give them something to hold on to. And you've got Claudio Ranieri. He's won the Premier League 2 years before with Leicester. He's the manager. Hiya, Pete. Hiya, Claudio. You okay, mate? So you're walking out, and anyway, everybody knows what happened. They went 1-0 up. We had a plan that we were going to sit in for an hour and then have a go for the last half an hour and try and be in the game. We had a go for the last half an hour. We equalised from a penalty, and then we scored in the last minute. Our keeper saves a penalty. So Mitrovic, he stood on the side of the pitch ready to come on, and I'm looking at him going, couldn't think anything else, but Jesus, he's a big lad. He's huge.
Yeah.
He's huge. Well, he's coming on. Andre Schürrle's coming on, World Cup winner. I'm like, wow, this is still surreal. So Mitrovic comes on, takes the penalty, misses it, and we Callum Lang scores. He's obviously still playing for Wigan, scores in the last minute, and it's absolute madness, unbelievable. And you then going into Claudio's office, I thought, there's no way I'm going without going having a drink with him. I thought, I'm going to go and hunt him down, whether he likes it or not. I'm hunting him down. So I find his
beer
office.
or wine?
Oh, I find his office, and I said, "Oh, what will Claudio have?" He said, "He'll have a glass of red." I'm like, "I'll have one with him. Don't drink red wine. I'll have one with him. I'm going to yeah, I'll have whatever he is having." And you know what? The biggest thing I could say is, when somebody's had enough of somebody and they don't want to talk to them, you fidget, don't you? Because you're trying to get rid of people. He didn't move an inch. Absolutely, he was phenomenal. Half an hour of his time. I'm question after question after question. His wife sat next to him. I'm battering him with questions, and it was great. Then after half an hour, I said, "I'm sorry, Claudio, I'm going to have to go. I'm on Match of the Day tonight, pal."
You're not Claudio. You're out of this competition now.
So I drive back to Manchester. The media lads drove me back to Manchester, and I'm on Match of the Day. So if there was a 7 days in football, I think that was unbelievable. 7 days, and something that I don't. Well, things like this, you can tell my voice. I don't get bored of talking through that conversation and that story. It's for a bloke for where I came from.
That's like a movie in itself, isn't it? That story, that 7 days, is like that's a Netflix special right there. Just that 7 days that's unbelievable.
I think that one of my mates said to me, "You should write a book, the fan that became the manager." So again, when I'm skinned, I'm gonna look at this book, The Fan That Became a Manager.
The Fanager.
Very good. There we go.
The Fanager. If we just remember that there, just in case it happens, Hannah, we've got the claim.
Available.
Yeah. I mean, copyright strikes against Amazon when you're trying to sell it out. Get it off there. But yeah, so you obviously 8 games you had at Oldham, and then I think you publicly said that you'd only been an academy manager for next to no time.
Yeah. I was interim academy manager, so basically for 2 months I was running the 9s to first team. I ran the whole thing for 2 months. So as you can imagine, I'm gone by the time Paul comes in. I'm absolutely goosed. I'm in an environment that I'm not used to. I live in a town where everybody knows who you are anyway. So every time you went for a bite of milk or you went for a beer or anything like that, everybody was all around you. I didn't deal with it great. I was 34-year-old. I didn't deal with it well, and I wasn't dealing with it well. So I needed it to end quite quickly so I could go and refocus, reshape, and get my head around what had gone on. So I was quite pleased Paul was coming in, really.
Did you feel in your own head that then you weren't ready for it? You weren't prepared for that? Like, it wasn't that, I suppose when you're applying for a job, if you're going to try and work for a football club, you've got yourself ready for that. But this was never a case that it was kind of, unfortunately, you're thrown in the deep end here. You didn't really consider what that would mean outside of Boundary Park, I suppose.
There was mitigating circumstances, as we all know, and are quite public of why I basically would say it was the job I always wanted in the circumstances I never dreamed of, and I think that was what was making it difficult, and that was what was making it me want to press the eject really and get out of there, because I was finding it very difficult to balance, to deal with conflict management around what was going on around it. So I needed to get out of there.
I can understand. So before we kind of move on from, well, I don't say move on from Oldham, because you ended up back as manager until the end of the season. Didn't work out for Paul Scholes. So Paul Scholes ended up leaving, which I always found weird that Paul Scholes got involved, because he was part owner of another club, wasn't he, at the time? Which I found that really weird that he took a manager role, obviously, at Oldham. And yeah, he still owns Salford, but it didn't work out. Paul Scholes ended up leaving. Again, a bit of a grey area. No one really understands what went on behind the scenes for Paul to leave. You then came in and signed permanent for the end of the season. When you saw Paul go, did you think to yourself, oh, I'm getting that phone call again here because of what you'd done in that 8 games prior?
Yeah, I mean, I loved Paul because Paul was promoting the kids. I was back as academy manager, he was promoting the kids, and I thought it was great, and it was great publicity for the club. It was great to try and get Oldham on the map. There was so many good things about it, but Paul left for his reasons that I'm sure he was well within his rights to do so. But yeah, I thought, here we go again. Thanks for that, mate. And so yeah, but I made it quite clear the second time that if I was going to do it, I was going to do it my way, and we were going to show it. But I think that the club had sort of lost all hope we were going to get to the playoffs, etc., etc. So they were quite happy for me to just run it the way I'd run it. And we got to the final week of the season. We were the informed team in the league, and one game too far, and we missed out on the playoffs on the final week of the season. So we had a real good go, but I can honestly come away from that part of it and go, well, I was allowed to go and do it our way, mine and Chris's way, and we succeeded in trying to improve the team and move the team in the right direction. I know you're going to ask this, so I might as well say I was offered the job for the season after.
That was the question.
Yeah, I was offered the job for the season after, but I felt that, again, the mitigating circumstances that were going on behind the scenes, that it wasn't for me, and I didn't feel like it was. Everybody, when you're the owner of a football club, you can take it in whatever direction you want it to take it to. And if you, as a manager, agree with that, you stay and you sign up. If you don't, you leave. And I think that answers its own question.
And as a fan, that must have been, there's the kind of an emotional, psychological involvement in it as well, as opposed to, perhaps now when you're not quite so, well, I'm sure you are incredibly emotionally involved in Barrow, but there's not that history and the 7-year-old at Wembley.
Yeah, no, I was gutted. Again, I walked out, I didn't have a job. I didn't know where my next tenner was coming from. There was no severance pay. There was none of that. It was, right, what are you going to do now? You need to find something quickly to do. So, a strange time, but I still, to this day, 100% made the right decision.
Do you think, obviously walking away from that, because you said, the owner's going to take the club whatever direction he wants, and if you agree, you stay. If you don't, you walk away. Obviously, you didn't agree, or you didn't feel that was the journey for you. Did you, looking at Oldham now, obviously Oldham dropped out of the EFL the season before last. Was that something that you felt was a possibility of happening with how the direction of the club was looking?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I thought that it was not going to end well. I didn't think it would end well. We all know that even in League Two now, the EFL, the finances in the EFL are phenomenal. In League Two, look at this year especially, that the club didn't really have the finances to sustain their league position, and unfortunately, we got what we got because of the mismanagement of the football club.
Yeah, we won't go any further into that because none of us are wanting to open that can of worms and get into that. So you left. You said you didn't know where your next tenner was coming along. Halifax come. How does that come about for you? Do you approach Halifax? Did Halifax approach you? How did you end up down at the Share?
About 2 weeks
by the
before,
way, I love the Share.
Share's great. 2 weeks before the season, I mean, I didn't have a job, and Jamie Fulton, I think the manager at the time, was looking for an assistant. So Owen Coyle, one of my pals, had said he was looking for an assistant. So I was waiting for a phone call from them about the assistant manager job. I just want to get back in football. I just needed a job. And then on the Monday, it was basically he's resigned. So I just got hold of the chairman's number. I rang him up and said, "I'm Pete Weil. I did this last year. Would you meet me?" And so he gave me an interview, and 2 interviews later, we got on really well. We understood where he's coming. I know David Busnworth at Halifax is always looking for that next young manager or that next young player that's going to propel him. He's had so much success over the years in doing that model, and I think I appealed to what he was after. The problem was I signed a deal 9 days before the season started. I had 75% of the squad, a lot of trialists. They'd had 1 pre-season friendly, and I had 9 days to sort it all out, for want of a better word. So yeah, I remember going in the first morning, talking to some trialists and going, "Right, what do you want? Where do you play? Who are you?" Blah blah blah. I ended up taking 3 or 4 of them because they were good lads. And then,
Wow.
come on, then we'll run with you, and you seem all right. Let's have a go. Like, so, because again, 75%, a lot of the budget was gone because he spent it on players for the season. So yeah, it was an interesting 9 days, but we got up and running, and end of October we were joint top of the league. So it was a great start.
Again, we were looking from our perspective because it was kind of, obviously you had the COVID season that came along as well, and there was all that to deal with. But like Halifax, they kind of became this team really overnight that were, when you looked at the teams that were in there, and obviously Wrexham, they had the takeover sort of just at the back end of the COVID season, wasn't it? You had Notts County had dropped down. Chesterfield were obviously a team that were. Halifax didn't have that infrastructure of one of those teams. Like, you didn't look at Halifax and feel that I don't want to say had the right, because obviously everyone's got the right if you do what's correct, but like, you wouldn't predict it. You wouldn't have predicted before a ball was kicked that Halifax were going to be causing the impact that they did. And it was like, we were watching it, and I'm born and bred Halifax. Like, I obviously support Bradford because it's where I live, but I was born in Halifax. I was born 2 minutes down the road from the Shire. My dad was physio at Halifax back in the day, so like, I had that tie, and that's why I don't support Halifax. Just because I thought, I'm not supporting because of you. I'm going to support Bradford. And yeah, like, everyone kind of got behind it, and it is, you'll know from Halifax as a town, it's like a successful football team can really do wonders for a town like Halifax, and people really got behind it. I remember, it goes back a while, but it's like, I think 2007, they got to a cup final. I think it might have been like the FA Trophy or whatever. Yeah, and it was at Leicester, wasn't it? I believe.
I think so.
The game, and like the entire town just emptied and headed down. And like, people who I grew up with that have never had any interest in football were going to that game, and it was like, it was just surreal, because it kind of unites people, and football's such a powerful thing for that. At what point did you know then that was, like, when you first walked through that door and you saw those lads and you said they were good lads, did you know then, I've got something good here? Did you know very early on?
I think your point's bang on in terms of football's about communities, and communities can revolve around lower league football clubs, and especially lower league football clubs, because it's a more sense of a community. So I think that the football clubs generally, or the sports clubs generally, at the heart of the community. There was a massive disconnect between fans and club and players when I went there, as there was at Oldham, as there was at Barrow. So every door I seemed to walk through, there seems to be a massive disconnect. And I think because of the fan in me, I sort of understand the massive part around what fans can bring, and the importance of having fans on the side you. Otherwise, you're fighting an uphill battle. So I wanted to try and unite again the fans, and get players playing a way that fans want to see, working hard, grafting, and if you got beat, you got beat in the right way, and you didn't fall on your sword, etc., etc. And so it was really important. We tried to get them on the side, and it was a tough first year. That, I mean, with COVID hitting as well, we started so well. There was obviously a drop off in mid-season, but we went again and managed to make the playoffs. So I think as we built through that season, there was just, again, a sense of a higher purpose, a sense of the underdog mentality, siege mentality, which I've had at most football clubs that we seem to create, is that, right, we're all in this together. You need us and we need you. Let's all drive in the same direction, and let's all work as one to see where it takes us. You always have within football clubs people who don't come along that journey, and make silly comments, and we had a few of them across that season. But again, we were trying to do things the right way, and I was using the power of the media, using the power of the press to try and drive my point and get my point across. Again, as I've done at Oldham at Barrow, is to try and drive positive messages and try and drive positivity around football clubs. And we felt we got that. But I look at football clubs in 3-year cycles. Generally, year one in football clubs is crisis management. You've got somebody else's players, somebody else's way of playing. You might have 2 or 3 other players, depending on how long the managers last. So you've got to try and get to the end of that first season. And you might bring in some players who are short term. You might play a way that's short term. But you've got to make sure you're still in a job at the end of that first season. So average lifespan of the manager is 14 and a half months. So for me, crisis management first year is get to the end of the first season and try and build some positivity. Then year 2 for me, like we are at Barrow now, is around developing a way to plan. So recruit players to what you want and who they are. They might not be fully where you want them, but get them moving in the right direction. And then year 3 is about implementing a plan if you still have a chance. And that's the way we worked at Halifax. So we missed out on the playoffs on the last day of the second season, but we felt we were further down the line than we were in the first season. And we felt we had really developed and solidified a way of how we wanted to do things. And built the infrastructure behind the scenes, because when we went there, they weren't training full-time. They were on the hybrid model. So in the second season, we went full-time, which meant we lost some big characters and big players because they wanted to continue on the hybrid model. So we then went into the third season knowing that this was our chance to implement a plan. And we ended up with 81 points, conceded 11 goals at home, 17 wins at home, best finish for 60, 70 odd years, whatever it was. So we had a chance, and I think there's a lesson in there for us all in football that good things take time. Patience is required, like we said at the start of this interview. But I just really felt that we took them on a journey and put them on the map, and Chris is doing a great job there now. FA Trophy winners last year, just on the outskirts of the playoffs this year. The club now, they always say, whatever job you go to, leave it in a better place than you found it. And I can certainly sit here today and say I left it in a better place than I found it.
Absolutely.
So did it feel like given that you'd seen this 3-year plan out at Halifax, was that then, right, now it's time to move, now it's time to move on? Did you feel like you couldn't take them any further? What was what led you to move on?
There was a couple of things. I mean, I was so lucky across my time at Halifax. I had quite a number of inquiries and offers and people interested in what we did. I also knew that because the players had done so well, there were 7 or 8 of them who had already agreed or were already going to move on. We ran Halifax off the 4th/5th lowest budget in the league for the last 3 years. And David's put a phenomenal amount of money into the football club, regardless of what the fans tell you. He's put a phenomenal amount of money into that football club, but he's got what he's got. And I knew that when I walked through the door. Chris knows that still today, that you have to work on the budget you're given. And we managed to get them to punch above the weight. So many years on the bounce. We produced so many players that are now playing in the league and have moved on to better things, that it would have been start again mode. And and again, the worry was that if you go and start again, that you miss that opportunity to become an EFL manager. And I was desperate to be an EFL manager. I was hoping it would be with Halifax, but I then had to think about what my options were, and I thought it was the right time to pursue one of the offers that was on the table.
Do you know what worries me about what he just said there, Hannah? Right? He spoke about a 3-year plan, and he said year 1 is crisis management. In year 1 at Barrow, he did the double over us. And that was crisis management.
In fairness, at the beginning of the season, I think they were favourites for relegation. And one of the smallest budgets, again, which obviously you're very good at managing. But, finishing 9th, if that's crisis management, then, well, already what are you, 6th at the moment?
Utilise things to your advantage. So every betting company had as favourites relegation. So every meeting I ever had, I just put that up every single week for 40 odd weeks. These are top tip for promotion today, lads. We were bang on relegation. Paints its own picture, it does its own job for you. So like when you talk about crisis management, get people on side, get that siege mentality. Everybody don't rate us. Everybody thinks we're rubbish, lads.
Yeah.
Just
and as much as it was as much as it was a miserable day, and my daughter was a mascot, and when I asked her what her question would be, she said, "Why did people ruin my day as a mascot?" That opener against Stockport County was a massive statement in terms of one of the teams that had come up. I mean, I think, we talk a lot on the podcast about how betting odds are bonkers in League Two, and then it's often just based on like patterns and investment. But Stockport County were one of the favourites for promotion. Then you've got Barrow, and it was a massive statement winning an opener to the season.
But again,
and my first experience of Pete Wells fist bumps.
See, again, you got Stockport County. I'd been there with Halifax, which was my last game as Halifax manager.
Yes, of course, apart from playoffs.
And it was 10,500. It was bouncing. You go to Valley Parade on 17,500. Some players, if they're lucky, get that 2 or 3 times a career or once a season.
Yeah.
If you can't get yourself up for games like this, I actually see it as an advantage to the away side, because it's come on, let's go and enjoy it. Let's go and enjoy it. And if we can get them turning, it'd be even better. There's nothing better than a home crowd turning and voicing their displeasure at the home fans, because then they get nervous. It's great.
Yeah.
We said this on Saturday when we were talking about doing this interview. We said, like, there's players in those dressing rooms that will never play at a crowd in front of a crowd like this again. This number will be that's it for them. That's the highest number, and this stadium will be the biggest. And that's why teams over the years, we've seen it so many times, have come and they just, it doesn't matter what they've done in the game before. It doesn't matter if they've lost 3 or 4-0 in the game before, because they come in there and it's a different atmosphere. It's a completely different way of thinking. And then, a lot of the time it does work in their favour. Like you say, it's very easy to turn the fan base at Bradford. I think everyone's kind of cottoned on to that now. They know how to do it. I've been very open about the first thing that I think anybody does if they want to turn the fans at Bradford is win that coin toss and flip the ends. And you did it last year.
We were gutted we didn't win it this year, because it's the first thing that me and Niall talked about on Thursday was spinning round if you can.
Yeah, because you did it last season.
Yeah.
You span us last season, and immediately it turned. Yeah. And you mentioned Niall. I'm going to come on to Niall soon, because Niall still terrifies me. But I know he's a lovely man.
It's the same as Stockport with Cheadle. Spin him round. Get him away from the Cheadle.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference.
Sorry, talking about the big man. Go for it.
Well, so obviously he was at Bradford. He left Bradford before you came to Barrow, didn't he? It was the season before.
Yeah.
Weirdly, he was the captain. It was a really weird 3 or 4 days for Bradford, because we lost on the Saturday. I believe it may have been to Newport away, and Ollie Crankshaw, who ended up at County, came off of the bench, and at full time there was a radio interview with the manager where the radio interviewer said, I thought Ollie Crankshaw did well when he came off the bench, and it was Derek Adams at the time, and he said, "Did you?" I didn't. And that's kind of, from what we understand, is Niall's someone who stands up for his teammates, and he's very, very, he's a leader of that group. And the understanding is that Niall stood up to Derek on that, and I think that's great. Within 3 days, Niall was gone. Club captain, didn't put a foot wrong all season. I still maintain, I said it at full time on Saturday, I put a tweet out and said, I still think that Niall Canavan is one of the best at his position in this league. He is a mountain, he is a brick wall, and he generally doesn't lose it. He still scares me as a man. Like, he's a terrifying man. To be fair, it's the Bradford in him that's scary. Like, that's I know people like Niall from Bradford, and I'm like, yeah, you scare me, you. But Niall is very. I remember we once got the footballs mixed up, and I was walking off, and I'd picked the ball up that he was training with, and he just grabbed me on the shoulder. He was like, "You've got my ball." I was like, "Yeah, so not a problem." But like, having someone like Niall Canavan in your team is, do you feel so safe when the ball's going towards him? Is because every time the ball went towards him on Saturday, I felt helpless, completely helpless watching it. Just knew what was going to happen.
Well, I think Niall's always in control, isn't he? I think one of Niall's massive strengths is he's always in control. Doesn't look flustered. He never looks frustrated. He's an unbelievable communicator on the pitch, which for the young players around him helps them so much, because he talks and organises. You can hear him. You can help. He implements the game plan on the pitch was phenomenally well. He's been supported this year with obviously Paul Farman, George Ray having the season of his life, James Chester coming in. We've just recruited so many experienced players. There is managers out there, young managers, that don't like experienced players in the dressing room because they're scared of them, where I'm completely the opposite. I never played football. I need experienced pros around us to help us and help me and help the young lads and hold their hands on the pitch and help them and tell them everything will be all right, especially in these sticky months that we're going through now. So I want as much experience in the dressing room as possible. Niall's a fantastic leader. We have a really good relationship. If things need sorting or we want things sorting, he's always there to help me. And I always, like you say, I always feel that we're in control when Niall plays. And you look at it was World Diabetes Day the other day, and Niall plays professional football with diabetes, and he's very open and honest around how he deals with that. And he's very happy to speak to young people who may be like scared that they may not be able to do sport at a decent level because of it. So I think Niall brings so many facets on and off the pitch to the football club. He's a great person to have around the place, and he fits really nicely into our senior leadership team, of which there are 4 really experienced pros that we have in our senior leadership team who basically, I say to him, I don't want to run your dressing room. I'm here for the big bits, but you're here to run your dressing room, and Niall's the head of that.
And you're still causing upsets. So in the FA Cup, you beat Northampton. Although when I was reading the match reports, it's like shock win. Like, not really. I mean, Northampton haven't had the greatest starts of the season. We were all in League Two last year. Is that something that you enjoy? Do you kind of thrive on surprising and kind of surpassing expectations, or do you feel like, well, yeah, or do you feel like actually you deserve to be, if not to, it's okay, just Barrow rocked up and won again?
Yeah, I think the art of the underdog, and again, I use that word siege mentality, is fantastic. I do get our media lads and our staff hunting for articles that will portray us as the underdog, so I can pass them around the dressing room. I think you talk about the Northampton game. Northampton beat us up home and away last year, so we knew we had to be on it going down there. John's done a great job down there, and then I'm sure they'll find the feet in when they get their injuries back, and they won on Saturday. I've got a horrific record in the FA Cup since Fulham. I think I've won 2 games in 5 years. I've been beat at Kidderminster, South Shields, drew away at Pontefract Collieries. So I used all my luck in the FA Cup 5 years ago. So to go actually win an FA Cup game, I was over the moon last week. But I think 9 times out of 10 you can portray Barrow as the underdog. I can spin a yarn to the players that we are the underdog 9 times out of 10 every week. Some weeks I can't, and that's frustrating when I can't. But again, I think you've got to use where we are in the sort of hierarchy or pyramid on and off the pitch to your advantage, and let's have it right. There's not many people want to turn up at Barrow away, is there? And that's why we use that. We use that to our advantage. That Barrow away is some where we would look at Bradford away as an exciting day in the calendar. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad it's over, but it's people will look at Barrow away in the calendar and think, oh my God, Barrow away. And again, we use that to our advantage.
Yeah,
and that kind
Boxing
of goes.
Day this year.
Yeah, you've got a Boxing Day. Yeah, but it kind of shows with how the clubs run as well, because it's not just fans of opposing clubs that go, God, Barrow away. The club doesn't operate out of Barrow, does it? The club operates out of the Manchester area, which I kind of had this down here. Was, do you feel, obviously all the players every single week, it's like an away game for them? It's like getting together and traveling up together to Barrow. Do you feel that that's made that bond stronger for the players? Do you feel like that's a huge advantage for you guys because they're closer to the families down here as well?
Yeah, massively. I believe what is our perceived weaknesses is certainly our strength. We have this unique thing where we train in Manchester, but that allows us, as we still find our feet in the EFL and try and sort of secure that Barrow are an EFL club, that we can recruit better players from a bigger pool of players from where we're based. And when we came in last year, they never had a training ground. So we rented a training ground last year in Salford with De La Salle Community Club, And it was great. It was great for the players to have a base, and that's probably why we did so well last year, because players felt like they had a home and had a base, and it was all starting to come together. And we've moved to FC United this year, who've been unbelievable with us, fantastic tenants, can't do enough for us. But again, we've built on that now, and all the staff. We have a community room for the players, which is right next to the staff offices, and the doors are open. Everybody's intertwining. We have hot food on offer at dinner times, and you might think they're small things, but they're huge things. And in trying to attract better players to the football club and being in and around Manchester. And then on the Friday, so we play Crawl at home this Saturday. We'll train in Manchester on Friday morning. There'll be 4 or 5 lads that have to go straight from training and go to do the community work, because when
I was going to ask about that. Yeah,
I moved to Barrow. I asked the fans what's lacking, where we're going. I weirdly knew the old mayor of Barrow, so I tracked him down and then had a coffee with him. And what's lacking, and it was that sense of community, because we were so far away, and how do we sort of bridge them gaps? And we did a massive piece on trying to get into schools last year, and loads of community work on that Friday afternoon when we're up there. We were gobsmacked to find that every kid in Barrow has a Barrow shirt. I mean, I have a walk on a Saturday morning. The buzz around the town for the sport at the moment is unreal. I've never seen anything, even like Oldham in the Premier League days. The buzz is ridiculous around the town every Saturday morning, and it's so good. There's such a bond at the moment. I say at the moment because you never know how long may it continue and all that. So that community sense, we don't feel we've lost it. But then on I say to the players, as long as you're in Barrow for 9 o'clock on Friday night in the hotel, then do what you want. Come go up in the afternoon and go in the gym, or make your way up, go home, pick your kids up. I pick my lad up, and then I go up about 7 o'clock when the traffic's gone. But then when I get there, they're all up there. They're either watching the Friday night football. There's an unbelievable darts culture that we've got at the football club, where everybody's obsessed with darts at the moment, and they're all playing darts.
Who's winning?
Oh, by the way, there's some unbelievable. They're all buying their own darts, and all their own music. So
Anna, let's be brutally honest. Who's the worst?
I don't know what. I think even the bad players have got better, because there's darts, there's cards, card school, there's games going off. There's just a real sort of, like, we use the community rooms at the Holiday Inn in Barrow, and it's great. It's great. But again, like you say, I think that's because we're together so much that
I can see that
unity. And the biggest thing that I will always recruit good people. Number one, is he a good lad? Number two, is he a good player? The best players won't get you out of the proverbial when you're in it. The best lads will.
Yeah. And like for you, the good thing is, obviously being based out of Manchester, it means, and I suppose this adds to that atmosphere, and it allows players to be happier, is that, I'll use Canavan as a perfect example. He still lives here.
Yes.
For him, he didn't have to move to and I think back when Barrow was based out of Barrow, it's being brutally honest, there's not much up there other than Barrow. There's the town, and then that's pretty much it. You go for miles with nothing else, and that will put a lot of players off. Being able to stay with your family, stay local, even if you've moved to sort of the Manchester area, you're still 30 minutes away from, like, over this way. You've got Manchester, you've got Leeds, you've got even as far as like Birmingham, and down, like you've got that central hub, and I like it. Something I mentioned to you on Saturday, and I said I'm going to do this on here, because this is where we get.
To add to that point as well, is it's the huge part. A huge part of our recruitment is, I want players to live at home. I want players to be around the families. I think it's lazy recruitment if you go and just pick players who are from miles away from the area. We have 3 lads in the clubhouse who are London lads. I'm not saying we recruit all Northern, but we're 80% are Northern. We have 3 young lads from London in the clubhouse. Dean Campbell moved down with his missus. Rory Phelan moved over from Ireland, and they're living in and around Manchester. But if I say move to Manchester, so Dean's living on Salford Quays, come and live on Salford Quays. Oh yeah, that sounds beautiful. They're because they're going home every night to their families and their loved ones, and I think that's a massive part of recruitment.
Yeah, huge.
How involved are you in recruitment generally?
I think that's one of the biggest things for me. We all have our lanes. So we have, I sort of major on the opposition, on recruitment and running the football club. Adam will major on us, on the training ground. Does it look like us? He will review with the players on did it look like us on Saturday, etc., etc. So I have a huge part in recruitment. I think that's one of my strengths. I like to find players who maybe have lost the way. So Ben Whitfield, who was with yourselves, and maybe need to get going again. I like to find players that I think are on the way up for the National League. I'll use Kean Spence, who came from Halifax with us, Dean Campbell's, etc. So we're looking for them types of players, or I'm looking for that person who's going to bring it all together, David Worrell, Jamie Proctor, James Chester, who we know have been there and done it, who can help these young lads progress. So that's one of the big things I enjoy doing, is finding the next one.
Can I ask about, so when you've got players who, so you mentioned Ben Whitfield there, you obviously brought Ben Whitfield in from Stockport. I interviewed Ben last year. I think like one of the nicest guys we've ever had the opportunity to meet. Like on Saturday, he came straight over, him and Telford, which is weird because we interviewed Telford as well, and they both came over. And what's weird is that they're both tiny. Like I knew Telford was small. I didn't know that Whitfield was the same height, and you could see that they had that kind of that relationship already built up there, and they've not been together that long. When it comes to man management, and I'm going to use Whitfield as an example here because obviously Wits is a Bradford lad, born and raised in the area. His family still come to games. Yes, they have season tickets. Like they love Bradford City. On Saturday and last season as well, Wicks was on the bench for you going into the games at Bradford. How do you approach that conversation to say to someone who, obviously for him, there's an extra spark there, isn't there? But you say, look, you're not in my first team 11, but you're going to be involved. How do you approach? How is that side of things managed for you? Do you find that quite easy to manage, or is it? I'd be so anxious.
Yeah, I think this is the best bit I think I've got better at over the years. I don't like players going home on a Friday and me not telling them an answer. So whether they're not in the squad, whether they're not in the team, I try and prime time. Some weeks it doesn't go my way, so some of the players might be watching this going, "He doesn't do that every week." I try and do it as many times as I can and give them an answer. Whether they like the answer is irrelevant, really. It's giving them an answer, an honest answer, and I can get in bed Friday night and go, well, I told them the truth, and I can live with that. Whether they agree or disagree is irrelevant, really. It's around that I've told them my honest opinion, and I will always finish it with whether I'm right or wrong. It'll be borne out on Saturday afternoon, and it'll be me that'll have to justify that at 5 o'clock, whether I'm right or wrong, and I'm happy to do so. I think players just want honesty and good communication. I think the worst thing you can do to a player is leave them in with ambiguity or leave them not knowing. I think you've got to try and have good conversations with them. I found that harder this year because we've got a bigger squad. But I think because we've had a bigger squad this year, I've been able to pick players based on what I think the game needs. And I've been quite honest with the players about you'll find it very difficult to play every week because we need to pick the right players for the right games, and there's a reason why we've gone for a bigger squad. So I have to look at what Bradford City's strengths are on Saturday, for example, and look who suits that role. And we've done a big piece on starters and finishers. It's a rugby union thing that's sort of manifested itself in football these days, that there'll be a group of you that will start the game and probably have to do the majority of the dogged work for them. But there'll be a group of you that will come on and probably get the headlines because you come on and score the winner and score or score the goal that influences the football match. Yeah. And if you use here's another analogy, what do you want to be in the sprint, in the relay race? Do you want to run first or do you want to run last? I think there's all them things that you try and get across. And don't get me wrong, we're all humans and we all want to play every minute of every game. But the modern reality of football is that unless you are a centre, a half, or a defender, or a goalkeeper, your chances of playing every week are probably smaller than they've ever been because of the birth of bigger squads, 50-odd game seasons. It's very unlikely that you're going to participate in every game. And I think it's being open and honest with the players that is the modern life and the modern game. And you'll obviously have their agents and people in their ears telling them different, but the reality is we'll go to the next club and I bet you bottom dollar the same thing happens at the next club.
Yeah, I think that there, you're right in what you've just said there, because on Saturday, and I called it happening, you made the substitution. I think it was the 75th minute you made the substitution. You brought Whitfield on, and the 77th minute you scored. And it was like, I said to I said my missus was with me. Obviously, you met my missus. We were sat with the baby, we were chatting, and I just said, "Let's just go home." I said, "This is." I said, "It's happening now." I said, "I guarantee you, the game's going to change at this point," and that's what you did on Saturday. Like you managed it perfectly and made those changes at the right point where you saw where our kind of weaknesses were forming, and you took advantage. And it literally, Hannah, it was 2 minutes bang on. And it was infuriating because we all saw it coming.
That's the job of the manager, isn't it? That's the job of the
absolutely.
manager. We can do so very little. We get blamed for everything, but we can do so little at 3 till 5 on a Saturday. But the one thing you can influence is the sitting back, the bits. What I've got better at this year, I'm not berating officials as much as I used to. I'm sitting down watching football matches, and I'm actually making better decisions along because I'm listening to the staff. The staff are the ones that are seeing more than I'm seeing, and I'm listening to them. And I think we're making better decisions, and that's allowing us to use our bench. I look at our bench Saturday. I was so proud of the strength on our bench Saturday, of how we can change it and where we can change it. That can only help the football club.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's a team. It's not individuals, is it? It's about Barrow, the club, and the team moving forward, not necessarily one person's career being the center of it. And I thought, no, I agree. I like that. I do like that approach. I didn't like it on Saturday. I'll be honest. I hate it. And I remember I text Hannah saying, when you scored, the only thing I text was saying, I'm going to have to watch those fist bumps. I just knew it was coming. And then, like, I said it to my missus as well. She was like, well, why don't we just leave? I was like, no, I want to watch them. So, but I don't want to watch them at the same time.
I think that I get battered. I know my missus tells me I get battered on social media for the fist bumps, but at the end of the day, I have no idea when the next win's coming. So I'm going to celebrate that win, every single win we ever get, like it's the last. Because you never, ever know. And don't get me wrong, it shows the unity between fans and manager and players, don't get me wrong. But the honest answer is that is relief at 5 o'clock every Saturday. Oh my God, we've managed to win another one. Happy days. The rest of the weekend might not be as bad.
Yeah.
Well, and the fans love it.
Yeah, they do. They actually picked up on Saturday that this week's was a little bit different. And I don't know if you know that you did this one a little bit different.
Right, go on.
Anna knows what I'm going to say. Yeah. So you did your fist pumps, and then you do your celebration, and then you screamed. I can't repeat it.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I can repeat it because we don't have a watershed on this, but I won't. Up the Bluebirds, and you could a fan filmed it, and immediately we got it sent, and they were like, he even screamed this week, and it's like it's evolving.
It is. Yeah, you're right. And I don't normally add that, but again, that was just sheer elation. I was dead proud. Again, let's have it right, mate. You threw everything at us. We were under the cosh from probably the 25th minute till half time, and then from probably the 75th minute, because when Whitfield comes on, we've gone 5-4-1 for a point, by the way. So we've gone to sit in for a point and try and stop you for the 75th minute. So we were over the moon with a point, never mind 3. So it's a goal worse. We were, as you can imagine from the bench, we were buzzing.
Well, it's like, and I agree. Like I said this, and we do a live show on a Sunday where we kind of all fans of all clubs come on and speak and talk about like their game and what they thought and things like that. And I said in the game, I felt like we were the team that kind of controlled things for a lot of that game. The issue was, and Graham Alexander said it in his interview, obviously it's his first game, he's learning the squad. We were trying to score the perfect goal.
Yeah.
And if we'd just maybe taken that chance, and I've said it, I think 3 or 4 times now with Andy Cook, and obviously everyone in this league knows Andy Cook. Andy Cook's a former Barrow player. We've got probably one of the most prolific scorers if you put a cross into the box. Yeah. And we weren't doing that. And if we had, maybe it would have been different. But to hear you say that you went to that to go for a point, and then you took all 3, I mean, I felt bad as it is. I might not go again.
Some weeks it don't, mate. That's footy, isn't it? So it's, I would say that football is one of the industry, like in most jobs in life, process generally equals outcome, doesn't it? in most jobs in life. In professional sport, process rarely equals outcome. Rarely.
Yeah. That's, and like you say, but you're making changes, but so are the other team.
Yeah.
You've only got control of 50% of what goes on that field, and that makes me feel so bad. Well, you mentioned, so to sort of come in today, obviously you're at Barrow now. So we've done your journey, but to look at sort of what's next for Pete Wild, what you see as next. We talk about steps, and you said like there was a 3-year plan at Halifax. Obviously, no one knows when the Barrow journey is going to end, because you're potentially still very early days in it. If things keep going well, then why would it end? But questions that were sent in from people, there's a lot of people at different clubs that want to know. Would you be coming to their club at any time? And one of them, which is, and I think it's pretty obvious answer, to be fair, before you retire, before you step away from football, would you like to manage Oldham Athletic?
Yes, as long as I move out the town and I find a different
live in Barrow.
Yeah. Let's never say never. I would love to. Like I say, when we don't have games, me and my lads still go. We go as fans. We go and sit in the stands. We'd love to go. We're very pleased we've got a new manager, because we can start going again now. We had to spend 6 weeks not going because we didn't want to get seen there. So we're very pleased we've got a new manager. And yeah, listen, the club Oldham was always been a club. If there was one day that it worked out for both parties, then fantastic. Never say never.
So this is going to be, we're not going to talk dates, because it can be quite people go like talking about dates where you've maybe spoke to other clubs and things like that previously in your career. We don't want people to go, well, he was speaking to this club, you weren't ever fully committed, because things happen in football, and you'd been silly not to think that a manager's going to have conversations if a bigger club or a different opportunity comes up and things maybe aren't going the way that they want them to where they are. So clubs that you've spoken to, are there any that you've turned down at any stage that you sort of look at and think, I wonder, what if I'd not turned that job down? Or what if, let's say you maybe didn't get the job, what if I'd got that job? If something's maybe happened to a club, and I think I'm right in saying you maybe interviewed at Hartlepool at some stage. Is that right?
Yeah, that one that did happen, because they got permission from Halifax for me to speak to them. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So do you ever look at those, obviously Hartlepool dropping out of the league, and think, what would have happened if you'd have taken any of those positions? Are there any clubs that no one's ever questioned you on that you've actually spoken to? There's got to be, surely. Not everything gets leaked, surely.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing to say is that Barrow were very well. When we went to Barrow, we had a lot of options. I had a lot of options. Chris decided to stay at Halifax, so we had a lot of options. And the biggest thing is that I'm only 39. I need to work. I've nowhere near paid the mortgage off, and I've got to need to work. So you need to have that in your mind when you're thinking about what's next. I wanted incremental rises. So to come back into League Two with a club that I wasn't expected to go and blow things away, and then it go wrong, and then I fall off the edge of the earth, and I can't afford that. I needed somewhere where it was an incremental rise, and I could get my teeth into League Two and understand what it meant to be a League Two manager, and how it was to be a League Two manager. So they were strategies. The other thing, obviously, from learning from past experiences, is I have to be at one with the owner or the people running the football club, that we are moving in the right direction, and the same direction that we have a chance to succeed with the resources that we have, and we have pragmatic targets to hit as a football club. So I think they all have to come into your thinking. So you will get some conversations, some wacky inquiries where you just say to my agent, I'm not going there. I've got a young family. Don't really want to leave the north or the northwest at the moment. I appreciate it. Maybe one day I will have to, but I don't really want to do that at the moment. So that comes into the conversation as well. And I honestly can look you both in the eyes and say to you that when jobs have come or people have asked to talk to me, that as soon as I say no, I don't even think about it again. It doesn't even come into my thought process again. I think you have to be that clinical. I think you have to be that clinical in life, because if you dwell on the past. You can't change the past. If you think about the future, I ain't got a clue. The three of us don't know what's going to happen when we come off this call today. We haven't got a clue.
No.
So don't worry about it. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy being here now. And Barrow, we have 5-year deals at Barrow, and we're 18 months into them 5-year deals. When we moved to Barrow and they offered us new contracts after 9 games, nobody else wanted us. So we were happy to sign them deals, and we were proud to sign them deals. So we have to honour them deals until such day that a deal is put on the table to, number one, compensate Barrow. And by the way, I'm not thinking about going anywhere, but to compensate Barrow, or to really attract me and Adam away from the football club. And all I'm trying to do is talk in sort of real pragmatic, real honesty to you. That's they're my touch points. What I'd consider. There's where we are at the moment, and we're loving life at Barrow. We are still learning. Me and Adam will always say to you that we are learning. We're still learning. We've got lots of things to get better at. We've got lots of things we need to be better at. As have all the staff. We have a phenomenal bunch of young staff at the football club, and we're all learning. So whilst we're all learning, where's the fire? Where's the rush? Let's just get it right here. And then we'll have a prolonged career. If we start chasing things, you never know if you're going to have a prolonged career.
No.
You hit the nail on the head there with the fact you're still really young in the management game, aren't you? You've obviously been in football for a long time, but 39 years old and managing in the EFL, like you say, it's kind of baby steps, isn't it, for you? You're not looking for the leap. You're looking for the next step. You don't want to take 3 steps at a time because you could slip.
Yeah, definitely.
Analogies. You don't run up the stairs. You walk up the stairs.
Yeah.
Unless my kids try and race me all the time. They've not once beat me. I will race my children up the stairs and I will win. But yeah, no, it's you take those steps, don't you? You just look for the next one, which no one knows what that's gonna be. And look, there's obviously a chance that you could be 20, 30 years at Barrow. That could happen.
A590 for 20, 30 years. Wow.
Can you imagine it?
Drive on the A590 every
Yeah, I know. And can you imagine by the end of it, Bradford still haven't beaten Pete Wild? And that's the upsetting. I'm still sat there going, he went 4-5-1 for draw there, and he's beat us again. But yeah, like you say, you don't know what that step's going to be. Logically, you'd say it's going to come to an end at some stage, but that time will be the right time. The reason we did I said to you on Saturday, and for anyone who doesn't know, people always ask us why we say Pete Wild on Twitter. It is nothing more than it was a joke. It was Barrow fans were so, and I think this kind of shows where Barrow were as a club. They were so worried that anytime a club lost a manager, you were going to be that person at the top of their list, and they were kind of used to being that club where if somebody wanted your manager, they could just come and take it, because they'd always been, when in the EFL especially, they'd been down at the bottom end, and you've taken them further up. So they thought, he's going to be on radars, and you are on radars. Let's be brutally honest. You pop up in the odds every single time a job comes up, and that is because, and that's why you don't go to games as much when there's jobs available, and because you'll get thrown in, and people will think that it's going to happen. But yeah, it literally became a thing of just randomly, just one day, just tweet Pete Wild, and that's all it was. It was just to see what happens, and within minutes we'd have Barrow fans, but then we'd have fans of clubs who are looking for managers going, "Is it us?" At one stage, and I've got no shame in saying it, we had Barrow players going, "What are you saying, Bat? What's going on?" Like, no, we're joking. Like, there's nothing in it.
I remember I was off the other week, and there was a job came up. In fact, it was the Oldham job. I was off the other week.
Oh, right.
And all the players were convinced I'd gone back to Oldham. And I was like, no, I told you I was off. I told you I wasn't in that day. I was on my coaching badges.
Yeah.
You all knew. So why did you think I was lying to you? I wouldn't lie to you. And I think
Oldham fans felt the same, though.
Yeah, I think as well, mate. You look at these days, the contracts are so we got a 5-year deal and we were over the moon. But Barrow were over the moon with the financial package they got, after what happened with Ian and how they lost Ian to Bolton. And I think Barrow are very savvy in the financial deals that they've made, and that should give all Barrow fans be pleased that the club is run by very good people and people who care about the football club, who are doing the best on and off the pitch financially for the football club. So, yeah, it's working for both parties at the moment.
Yeah, we talked about pragmatism. That's a very pragmatic, sensible approach to finances, but also, to kind of protecting them in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and everybody's got the price, haven't they? So,
oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's not much I wouldn't do for money.
I'm with you. Yeah,
yeah, of course. I think anyone who says that they're not money motivated in some way,
anybody wants to pay the mortgage, don't they? If you pay your mortgage,
well, I was going to say, like Pete said, everyone's got mortgages to pay,
and you want to get it paid off quicker. That's the thing. It's the option
in the current climate.
In the current climate, yeah. Interest rates. Here we go. We're going off on interest rates now. There we go.
We've gone from what did we start
dishwashers,
dishwashers to mortgage interest rates. Look, we wouldn't have it any other. We call ourselves professionally unprofessional, and that sums it up. We've gone from dishwashers, we've covered a bit of football in the middle, and now we're on mortgage interest rates.
A lot of football. It's an epic interview.
It is. So one last thing from me. Then we spoke on Saturday, and I mentioned to you. And I'm doing this on here because I want to see. I want you to agree to this on here, so then you can't back out of it. On Saturday, I said to you that where we wanted to bring back Soccer AM's crossbar challenge because we wanted to see.
Yeah.
I loved Soccer AM growing up, and what that entails is we go to the club's training grounds and film. And really, let's focus on the EFL clubs because there's so many personalities in the lower leagues. Yeah. So. Pete Wild, I love saying that name. Do Barrow accept the crossbar challenge?
Oh, 100%. Our lads would love that. Yeah, 100%.
Yes,
if you can keep George Ray away from the microphone, you've got a chance. I mean, he's got his own, basically Barrow's social media at the moment. He's George Ray.
I'll give him a microphone.
He just took it. Oh, don't give him the last thing you need is give him a microphone.
He can commentate on it.
He can be the commentator. We'll co-commentate it.
Wow, we'll watch it. Unbelievable. Yes, 100%, mate. You're more than welcome.
We'll get that set up. Hannah, have you got any more subjects that you want to cover? I genuinely feel that usually when we do these interviews, like we miss things. But I've ticked every box that I had. And this has been...
You do need to get Pete to look at the camera and say, Pete Wild.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just say... Go on, Pete. Just say Pete Wild.
Pete Wild.
Yes, that's the sound clip. That's it. We made Dom Telford do worse. When Dom Telford signed for Crawley, they had Crawley's like slogan is "Town Team Together," and the video it said "Town Team," and then he looked up and went Telford. So when he came on for an interview, I was like, "You're doing lower league." Look, and he did it. We edited it into the video, and it's the worst video I've ever edited in my life. But and this is how I know that you've got that good set of lads within the club. He was so up for it, and I mean, he's from sort of the Clitheroe area, so kind of between where you train and up Barrow, where like he's got that northern kind of cheeky, chappy lad about him. Like, got so much time for someone like Telford, Whitfield as well. Canavan scares me, like I say, but again, I think he's phenomenal.
All great lads. I mean, the culture and the funny when they come in the morning, they're actually just really good to be around. They're really good people to be around, and you spend more time with the people you work with than your family, so they have to be good lads. And the one thing we have got is a good set of lads.
Yeah, and Paul Farman as well. I've found I've got a newfound appreciation.
Class.
Annoyed me with that save that he made on Saturday. Because again, no, I won't let that go. I messaged him because at full time he was leaving the pitch and there were a lot of Bradford fans at the side, obviously near the changing rooms, and they were shouting abuse at him. And he just turned and smiled and went, "Thanks for coming." And went in the dressing room, and I messaged him going, "That was incredible. Like, that was such a good way to handle it." And I said,
"Perfect.
But please never save a shot like that again." Because that was just ridiculous. But
just done 500 appearances. He's just done league appearances. Unbelievable career.
Yeah, and one of our main guys is a Lincoln fan, and as soon as I said I'm speaking to Paul Farman, he was like, "You get Paul Farman for me, please." Like, you will absolutely get. So yeah, Paul Farman's next. We're gonna have a chat with him about his career, and Well, look, he might be the one that says you don't do that when you're talking about how you let the lads know.
I never have to let him down, though, do I?
Yeah, he plays every week.
Yeah, I don't have to let him down ever.
Plays every week. Well, look, genuinely, I can't thank you enough for doing this. This has been, it's been awesome. Like, better than I think we ever thought it could be. But yeah, I suppose there's not much else to say, is there, Hannah, apart from, what was it?
No.
Pete Wild?
Pete Wild.
Guys, thank you very much for watching, and we'll let you know when the next one's going to be. Thank you very much.